Good evening, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, members of the University of Johannesburg community, all of those present online, all protocols observed for all of our distinguished guests joining us this evening. Thank you for being here. It's my pleasure as Program Director, I'm Prof. Susie Graham, to welcome you all to this very special gathering as we launch and reflect on Prof. Mutambara's next book. I think that's the second for this year, Prof. Is that correct?
Yes.
On deploying artificial intelligence to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, drivers, enablers, and strategic framework. Tonight, we're celebrating not only the release of a remarkable work, another one, but also the broader conversation it sparks, how artificial intelligence can be steered as a force for inclusion, development, and sustainable transformation. To set the tone for our evening, we are honored to have our Vice-Chancellor and Principal, Professor Letlokwa Mpedi here. Few people can combine intellectual leadership with the ability to inspire institutional change quite as he does. Our VC earlier this year won the I Am Me Academic Leader for Sustainability Award, recognizing his work to embed the UN SDGs into UJ's academic and institutional efforts. It's only fitting, in that respect, that he opens the floor for us tonight and welcomes everybody with his speech. Prof. Mpedi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Program Director, Professor Vicky Graham. Colleagues, please allow me to observe all the protocols so that I can acknowledge all the people that are present here. Please allow me to start by acknowledging the men of the evening, the men who made this possible. You know, Prof. Mutambara, we've got an animal that we call chipu in Setswana. Those who may not know, chipu is an artwork. I don't know what you call it in English. It's artwork. It works really hard. And we recently recruited a talented young man, and I said, here at UJ, you are going to join the chipu, meaning artworks, you know, because they dig and we dig, and you are a perfect example of that hardworking animal. This is your second book, and we congratulate you, and thanks for bringing us together. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to acknowledge in absentia Mr. Maxwell Gomera, UNDP resident representative in South Africa and director of the UNDP Africa Sustainable Finance Hub. Please also allow me to acknowledge Ms. Lindiwe Zulu, former South African Minister of Social Development and former Minister of Small Business Development. Please also allow me to acknowledge this evening acknowledge Mr. Ralph Mupita, the CEO of MTN and former Old Mutual CEO for emerging markets. Please also allow me to acknowledge our friends from the People's Republic of China, Embassy in South Africa, His Excellency Minister Mr. Qin Champagne. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Honorable Minister. He is the deputy head of the mission in South Africa, of course, the People's Republic of China Embassy to South Africa. Welcome, and thanks for joining us. Please also allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to acknowledge our executive deans, Professor Camila Naidu, the executive dean of the Faculty of Humanities, and of course, Professor Shau, executive dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment. I also saw our CIO earlier, Mem Alitsema Pofu, and all other executive leadership group members that are joining us physically here, but also virtually. Please also allow me to acknowledge Mr. Kuseni Dlamini, board chairperson of Alexander Forbes Group Holdings and board chairperson of Aspen Pharmacare Holdings and many other boards. And last but not least, let me acknowledge not last but not least, but let me also acknowledge Mr. Justice Omei, Judge of the South African High Court and Senior Counsel, Rhodes Scholar and alumnus of Stanford and University of Oxford and Cape Town. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the great University of Johannesburg. Now, when Professor Mutambara booked me, he said to me, I want you to be there, so give me a date and time. Now, if somebody does that, whether you're not well or not, you can't say, oh, no, I can't make it. Please pardon me, I'm not trying to charm you, Professor Vicky. I am struggling with acute sinusitis. I'm blocked severely, but I couldn't miss this opportunity to welcome you here. And since I made a promise that I'll be there, Professor Mutambara, and for that reason, if you could indulge me so that I can go and take more medication. I'm heavily sedated as I speak here, but I'll make sure that I don't talk nonsense. That after Prof. Mutambara has spoken, if I could please be excused due to not feeling too well. I hope you will forgive me for that. But of course, I have to do what I'm paid for. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure that I welcome you to this book launch of Professor Arthur Mutambara with the title, Deploying Artificial Intelligence to Achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This is my own personal copy, ladies and gentlemen, and I got it directly from the man himself, and it's well autographed. I had to bring it here. If there's a man who knows how to impress the bosses, it's Professor Mutambara. Look at the color. It's very orange. At the University of Johannesburg, we say our blood is orange. We are unapologetic about it. You can check even my socks. They are very orange because our blood is orange. And thank you, Professor Mutambara, for doing that. But another important thing, Professor Mutambara writes a lot. He could have chosen to write about complex control systems, which is something you wrote about a lot. As a professor, of course, you know, who studied artificial intelligence, could have written about neural networks and all those complicated things, but you decided to address something that is extremely important, you know, how AI could be deployed to address, you know, to make sure that we achieve sustainable development goals. This is something worth applauding, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give Prof. Mutambara a warm round of applause. I traveled a few years ago, Prof. Mashawi, you were there, with my predecessor, Professor Marwala, to one African country, and we gave a public lecture. He gave a public lecture at one of the local universities, and we were in attendance. And there was this professor that I know very well, because this is the professor that my first email to an international person was to this professor. I was a temporary junior lecturer with big dreams to become a professor. I was sending an abstract to this professor with the hope that if he's accepted, I will be able to travel for the first time outside of South Africa to Malawi. And I was sitting there, did it leave me? Nobody trained me to send an email. Emails were still relatively new. And there at this university, they were just introduced. And I was like, did it go? If it went, did he receive it? If he received it, will he reply to this? Nobody. After an hour, I got a response that your abstract is impressive. We're going to finance your trip. That was my first conference. But that is a story for another day. But this professor was there, now an old, frail professor, was sleeping most of the time when Prof. Marwala spoke. And then when it was question and answers time, he raised his hand. And he said, His Excellency, this AI of yours, can it interpret dreams? Like in the Bible, in the case of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Do you remember? Yeah. And I was like, Professor, my professor, what kind of a question is this? I was saying that to myself. Professor Marwala is a polite man, an expert in AI. I came with this convincing answer and answered as best as he could. But that never left me. I was like, has my professor aged so bad that he sleeps in meetings? But that can happen as we age. And I was like, but what kind of a question was that? But as I grappled with this, I was like, no. There's a deep question in the question asked. The question, basically, the way I interpreted it later, is that, Professor, what does this AI of yours do or will do for ordinary people? We've got so much challenges. It's one thing to talk about neural networks, to talk about agentic AI and so on. The people out there, they want to know, ladies and gentlemen, they want to know, with so much poverty, we can have sport, dance there. We have sport, by the way. The robot dog, it can toy and do all those things. But for a hungry man at the street corner, Prof. Mutambara, what will this robotic dog do for me? For an unemployed person, the question is, what will this do for me? for somebody who doesn't have water or access to clean water. The question is, what can this do to me or for me? Now, I commend you, Prof. Mutambara, for sitting down and writing about this. How can AI be used to achieve sustainable development goals? Because that is the question, especially in the global south, where there's so much poverty. People need to know, this AI that we talk about, what is it going to do for us? We can talk about large learning models, supercomputers, algorithms, but for a poor man, it's about these SDGs. How do we realize them? So I commend you for doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, it may sound like it's easy. The road is tough. We are slowly approaching 2030, and we're asking ourselves, are we going to meet all these targets? It doesn't look like. COVID has impacted us heavily. But with AI and the solutions that Prof. Mutambara puts forward, then we may stand a chance. Prof. Mutambara in this book really addresses valuable issues, provides valuable insights, that we need, to appreciate in terms of the transformative potential of AI as a powerful tool to achieving these goals. However, ladies and gentlemen, one important point is that the path to success is not without complexities. We should not kid ourselves. We must confront the realities of this uneven progress and these risks of digital imperialism, data colonialism, and technological exclusion. We, as part of the Global South, must be active participants, in these developments, as my predecessor used to say. We hear stories, and then we need to be able to be part of this because there's always these myths. I heard, Prof. Mutambara, that sometimes when you use this automated faucets, the taps, in a bathroom, that use sensors, that you always go there and nothing happens. And then you put it there, nothing happens. And then you say, maybe I'm not doing it the right way. And then a European man does this, and then same time. Somebody said, no, because you have black hands. This thing was trained with European hands, not with black. I don't know how true that is. But to avoid these myths, we must be involved. Now, the university that pays me. Ladies and gentlemen, here at the University of Johannesburg, we're the university that is passionate about the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence technologies, but we also say that we need to give a human face to AI, ladies and gentlemen. And that is something that we are passionate about. Now, as part of our strategy, we say we need to ensure that everything we do, all the technologies we develop, must have a positive impact on the society. We talk about societal impact and sustainability. We talk about global footprint and partnerships because we cannot achieve these things alone. We need to work with partners. We recently visited the People's Republic of China and engaged with colleagues, and I think the advancements that the People's Republic of China has made, we see this here, but you need to go to China to appreciate that China is light years ahead. Now, through partnerships, we'll be able to learn from our partners and move ahead. I thought I should just pick that example. Now, we don't only talk about partnerships, we also talk about technologies for the future, which is something that we need to embrace and work together as partners, as teams, so that we can take our communities, we can take our societies forward. I thought I should emphasize those important points. Prof. Mutambara, congratulations on this important book. I have no doubt that the engagements will not end in this chamber. You have sparked something that will live on, and we're going to continue to build on this so that we can take our communities, we can take our societies forward. As the university will continue to build on initiatives such as this, the work that we are doing, and ensure that the people we graduate also go out there with the sole aim of using these technological advancements, using AI to develop the world, to develop our communities, and not just to brag and say, look how exclusive we are. With those many words, I welcome each and every one of you to the great University of Johannesburg, and I don't forget those that are joining us virtually. You are also welcome to this book launch. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.
Thank you very, very much, VC, for those powerful and energizing words, as always. We must be active participants. What can AI do for us? How do we realize the goals and make it meaningful in our lives? So I think the best person to help us explain all of these things is our keynote speaker, Prof. Mutambara. But first, I'd just like to say thank you, VC, for being here and for addressing us, considering that you're not well. And we appreciate your leadership. Thank you. We now turn to our keynote voice of the evening, a thinker, engineer, strategist, and provocateur, if I can use that word, Prof. Prof. Arthur Mutambara, Director of the Institute for the Future of Knowledge here at UJ. And if the title of this book promises to be bold, and it does, then you can be sure his presentation will be bolder still. Prof. Mutambara, we look forward to your insights. Please join us at the podium.
Hey, Professor Susie, thank you for that generous introduction. Most of it propaganda, but I don't mind propaganda. I hope I won't provoke too many people today. And VC, thank you very much for those words of welcome and also for giving part of my speech, so I don't have much to say. What are we saying? We are talking about deploying AI to achieve the UN SDGs. That's our agenda today. In doing so, we're looking at what are the enablers of that agenda? What are the drivers of that mission? And what is the strategic framework we can put in place to make this happen? That's the book we're launching today. You know, what is the context in which we're launching this book? What is the sense of alignment? We are launching a book within the context of the UJ Strategic Plan 2035. Our book is aligned to the agenda of the university, as the VC has already explained. The UJ Strategic Plan is an ambitious roadmap to navigate the future of education while deepening its societal impact. It places UJ at the front of sustainability, innovation, and global collaboration. This book is aligned to that ambition. The UJ strategy is aligned to the UN SDGs, in particular, affirming UJ's commitment to addressing global challenges such as climate change, inequality, and access to quality education. That's what we seek to do today, to be within the pillars of the UJ strategic plan. Pillar number 1, societal impact and sustainability. Pillar number 2, global footprint and partnerships. And of course, technology for the future, in particular AI. That's what we seek to do today. What is the book about? We seek to link AI to human development in this book. We are saying, why don't we use AI to drive human development and preserve the planet? That's the agenda of this book, to align and link human development to AI and use AI to drive human development and preserve the planet. What is sustainable development? We're talking about balancing economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection to ensure a prosperous future for all. Balance is the key word. Economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection. We want to balance those to ensure a prosperous future for all, so that we ensure that the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. If you do this, you have sustainable development. The key pillars: people, prosperity, partnership, peace, and planet. Right in the middle of that, we have sustainable development. However, Vice Chancellor, this idea of sustainable development is not without its challenges. It's not without controversy. Some people are not very impressed by this notion. UNDP, I can see Maxwell is here. We have challenges. We are saying that no. Sustainable development can't be an end in itself. You know, some people pursue it as an end in itself. We are not interested in that. Sustainable development must deliver socio-economic transformation. If you just pursue it as an end in itself, we challenge that in the book. We don't like that. Sustainable development must deliver socio-economic transformation. Then we are together. We are saying it must improve the quality of life for all people, not just some people, all people. It must produce inclusive economic growth and shared prosperity. Even the Americans haven't done this. The Europeans haven't done this. Their prosperity is not shared. The economic growth is not inclusive. So we aspire to be better than America, better than Europe. We want sustainable development to deliver inclusive economic growth and shared prosperity. Here's the issue. You cannot have a green agenda for a starving peasant. If I'm a peasant and I'm starving, I'll eat grass and cause deforestation. And I will not think twice about that. So let's not have this situation where you're pushing for a green agenda, from a climate change agenda to a starving peasant. Let us remove starvation. Let us remove hunger so that we can work on the green agenda together. Otherwise, pursue your green agenda alone. Don't involve poor people. They're busy trying to be fed. A person who's never experienced an electric bulb cannot condemn fossil fuels. Your war on oil, your war on coal, you can do it alone. Leave the poor woman out of it. The poor woman, the poor man has never seen an electric bulb, and you're asking them to condemn fossil fuels. What we're saying is, in the global south, in Africa, energy poverty is more important than energy transition. When you pursue the energy transition, make sure that you address energy poverty. You address poverty, so that we can work together. If you can solve energy poverty by using renewable energy, then we're together. We're solving the climate change issue and poverty. But for you to pursue energy transition, to pursue the green agenda without addressing energy poverty, there is a challenge, there's a problem. We must make sure that we address energy poverty and also poverty in general. Addressing energy poverty should be the primary number one issue globally. The energy transition must be anchored on poor people's terms. It must be just. It must address poverty. Museveni is a very interesting one in terms of criticizing sustainable development. He says, I've never seen sustainable pregnancy. The baby must be born, grow into a teenager, and become an adult. That's Brother Yoweri Museveni. He's saying that what you are saying, sustainable development, Maxwell, is sustainable underdevelopment. He wants to see delivery of economic transformation. The baby must be born. If you are pregnant forever, you die, and the baby will die as well. We are saying, let us have a critical attitude towards sustainable development and implement it the correct way. The UN SDGs are 17 goals for the people and the planet. There are 17 interconnected goals adopted by the UN in 2015, addressing economic, social, and environmental issues. A comprehensive framework to achieve sustainability, addressing poverty, hunger, health, and education. These are the SDGs. What we're saying today at UJ is, why can't we use transformative technologies to achieve this? Why can't we use AI to achieve this? No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, sustainable cities and communities. These 17, our challenge in the book is to say, can we go 1 to 17? Number 1, say, where are we? Number 2, why are we failing? Number 3, what can you do to achieve them? In particular, we focus on AI. We can break them up into social, environmental, and economic, but it's a very subjective division. But it helps us understand that social inclusion is the number 1 area. Poverty. How can you have billionaires and trillionaires when there is poverty, when there is challenges around quality of education? We must make sure we solve that in terms of technology. As we do that, we must realize that they are interconnected. For example, the pair of 13 and 17 affects everyone. So how can we make sure we address these things which are connected, and approach them in a holistic manner, and also measure them? What gets measured gets done. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. 17 goals, 169 targets, 232 indicators, 195 countries. Normally we say 193, but there are 2, Vatican City and the State of Palestine. Now with the genocide in Gaza, it's even more important that we talk about 195 countries. What is going on in terms of SDGs in the 195 countries? AI can be used to come up with a dashboard where the UN can look at a dashboard and tell us what's happening in Malawi, what's happening in Bangladesh. South Africa can look at the dashboard and say what's happening to goal number 17, goal number 5. AI can be used to build up this framework. And what we mean by the framework, for example, a target can be, by 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, measured as people living on less than $1 a day. That's a target. What is the indicator? Proportion of the population living below the international poverty line by sex, age, employment status, and geography. That's how they are organized, targets and indicators. And we have 169 targets and 232 indicators. That's what we're pushing for. And in doing this, we're pushing for what is called a circular economy, which is SDG 11 and SDG 12. We want to make sure that we are organized in a manner where we produce, we use, but then we reduce, we recycle, and reuse. We must move away from a linear economy where we take, we make, we use, we dispose. That is not sustainable. We must move our economies into a circular economy. In the corporate world, we are driving the agenda of ESG, the environmental, social, and governance. They're all linked to the SDGs. But the idea is to say, how do we build sustainability, and how do we learn from the MDGs, and how do we learn from the SDGs as they operate today? We look at the global south, we look at the global north, and pick lessons from there. Now, as the VC indicated, where are we? The year is 2025. What is the state of play? It is 2025, 5 years to reach the SDGs in 2030. Where are we? That is the question. UNDP Comrade Maxwell, we are failing. Humanity is failing, Professor Muped. 18%. 35% if we put a bit of the moderate achievements. 35% is a failure. We're at a university. If they get 35, they don't pass, right? So humanity is failing. We've got a problem. With 5 years to go, we're at 35%. Actually, 18% on track. Then moderate 17, making 35. This is the motivation behind the book to say, okay, given that we're failing as humanity, what can we do in the next 5 years to push that number from 35 to 50 or to 100? We have a problem. This is the motivation. This is the rationale behind the book. This is why we wrote the book. Here's the SG speaking about this matter this year. With just 5 years to reach the goals, we need to shift into overdrive. Mr. SG, here is our effort to join you in your overdrive. We are saying, why don't we deploy AI to achieve the UN SDGs? This is the rationale, this is the basis of this story we're talking about today. AI, just to introduce it, it's about building and developing computer systems or machines that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence, such as learning, such as problem solving, such as decision making. If you can have those in a machine, in a computer system, in an algorithm, you have an AI system. In terms of taxonomy or classes of AI systems, you got single task AI, agentic AI, generative AI, which is the big one now with ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok 4, and then we have what we call AGI. I want us to understand the nature of AI as we embrace it for SDGs. AGI gets a bit complicated. What are we saying with AGI? A computer system or machine that will exhibit all human cognitive capabilities, all of them. Reasoning, problem solving, creativity, and social skills in a machine. We have not done it yet. It's work in progress. But that's the aspiration under AGI. It gets even more frightening, what we call superintelligence. Now, under superintelligence, we're saying a computer system or machine which surpasses human intelligence across all domains, reasoning, problem solving, creativity, social skills, outperforming the brightest person, smarter than Einstein or Newton in terms of IQ, smarter than Elon Musk, outperforming the brightest and smartest person in every intellectual task. We have not done it yet. It is work in progress, leading to rapid AI self-improvement and unpredictable outcomes. You might ask, why are we doing this? Because of China and America. They're competing. Whoever gets superintelligence first will be in a class of their own. Right now, America and China are even. $27 trillion GDP, $19 trillion GDP, nuclear weapons, they're even. If America gets superintelligence, they're like this. If China gets it, step function. So you can't stop this because we have geopolitical contestation. And I'm sure the ambassador from China will tell us why they're competing. But we have geopolitical contestation, so you can't stop this thing. And also, it's used in the army. We have what we call autonomous weapon systems. We're going to get autonomous nuclear weapon systems. So you and I might want to use it for agriculture, right? But others are using it for weapons, so you can't stop it. You must understand it is there. And there are challenges why we can't get AGI, our understanding of the brain, structural and functional differences. There are reasons that we are having a challenge with AGI. But all of us must have an intelligent understanding of AI. You must know that deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Machine learning is a part of AI. So you can't say, we at UJ are doing machine learning at AI. It means you don't know what you're talking about. It's like saying, I'm going to South Africa and Joburg. I'm going to South Africa, in particular Johannesburg, because Johannesburg is in South Africa. So please speak intelligently about the subject. Same applies to neural nets. Please just understand it. VC, this is a revolution, VC. 2 Nobel Prizes last year were produced using and leveraging AI. The Nobel Prize from physics, AI. Chemistry, AI. It has never happened before, where one technology is the foundation of 2 Nobel Prizes. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but last year, AI was the game in town. And of course, you can see Geoffrey Hinton there. He's called the father of AI. But the message here is, this is a revolution in agriculture, a revolution in the economy, a revolution in the academy. And of course, you're familiar with these popular programs. And they're moving very quickly. You know, Grok 4, ChatGPT 5. Grok 4 is very interesting because we now have a new notion. Professors are here. You love exams. We've got a new exam. It's called Humanities Last Examination, the last one. We take 1,000 subjects, law, physics, chemistry, sociology, Xhosa, Ndebele, vet science, and we give you PhD level questions in 1,000 subjects. PhD level questions, put them in the machine. The answers, again, we get the answers from experts from 1,000 fields, put them in the machine. It's called Humanities Last Examination. Guess what, Professor Graham? The smartest person is getting 3% on this exam. You know why? Because, you could be an expert in physics. You get 0 in sociology, 0 in law, 0 in vet science, 0 in medicine. You get your 3%. If you are very smart, our UJ professors, the top ones, 2% or 1%. Humanities Last Examination. How are the machines doing? 44%, that's Grok 4. 10 times the smartest person. 10 times Grok 4, which came out on 9 July, scored 44% on an examination where the smartest person is getting a maximum of 5% or 3%. The machine is 10 times smarter. I know intelligence is more than an examination. But in that narrow definition of intelligence, where we look at an exam, the machine is smarter 10 times. And I know you love exams too. You give them high school exams, first-year exams, degree. So examinations are important to you humans. And the machine is doing better than you. We are saying superintelligence is almost here. It's not here, but potentially, if in the definition of intelligence around exams, the machine is 10 times, we are almost there. We're not there yet, we can get there. Imagine this is 2025. What happens in 2035? Because these things are moving exponentially. But I must, give you a bit of comfort. Don't worry too much. The future is not your replacement. The future is what we call human augmentation. You are not going to disappear. We'll augment you. We're going to make a human 2.0. You plus the machine is the future. Be ready to be you plus the machine. You alone, We want to make sure that The future is not the machine replacing the human, but them working together. Imagine a doctor. There's no human doctor who can be as good as a machine doctor. Why? We take information from 1,000 experts, 1,000 doctors, and put them into the system. And then the diagnosis, there's no human being who can beat the machine. However, for example, you go to the doctor, they do the diagnosis. The machine says to you, you are suffering, you got stage 4 cancer, you got 4 weeks to live, go home and pack your bags and ready to die. The machine has no empathy. But if you take that result from the machine and give it to a human doctor, the human doctor says, I think we've got some problems. Can you go home, bring your spouse, let's discuss your circumstances. So again, you can see the better doctor is the machine plus the human doctor. So please, don't lose heart. You are going to survive, but only as human 2.0. Be ready to become human 2.0. And also, Grok 4 lesson. You know what happened with this thing? It came out when these guys had fallen out. Elon Musk and Trump were fighting. Nasty. But when Grok 4 came, the US department said, no, forget your fight, man. Here's $100 million, Elon Musk. Why? Because they want to use Grok 4 in the army. So they could care less about the differences between Elon Musk and Trump. What we're saying is national interest sometimes is more important than your personal little differences. Elon Musk was waving a check of $100 million when he was fighting and going through a public, spectacular, nasty fallout with Trump. You must learn that from Grok. Yes, there are dangers of AI, bias, security risks, job displacement, ethical misuse, hands of bad actors. When AI is in the hands of bad actors, what happens? It's a problem. Hallucinations, use with care. We've had cases where lawyers were presenting fictitious references and citations. There is a way to avoid that. It doesn't mean that AI is bad, but you need to know how to use it in a clever way so it doesn't give you hallucinations. ChatGPT 5 claims that they've solved that problem, but the problem is still there. Use with care. Widening of the gap between the haves and the have-nots. The VC already spoke about data colonialism, digital imperialism, and then techno-feudalism. A very few people owning the world. We are heading to a problem, what we call techno-feudalism. If you look at those guys, we elected them. They're owning those companies, they influence governments and running, so it's techno-feudalism. And of course, I spoke about an AI-driven arms race. There are also uncomfortable messages from the industry right now as we speak. The research from MIT says that those who are using too much ChatGPT, they're losing their critical thinking. So we've got to watch that in academia. We'll talk about a bit of that. And also, Sam Altman is saying, this is the bubble. This thing is going to burst. Investors are overexcited about AI. So there are uncomfortable messages coming through from the industry itself, in addition to the risks and dangers that I've just articulated. Okay? Another major problem, Vice Chancellor, these things are not neutral. I think you've already indicated that it can't read your black hands. You know, the clear evidence came out during the launch of this book. Kissinger, before he died, wrote a very good book with Eric and Craig. Eric and Craig are, tech experts, but they combined with the Kissinger who understand geopolitics to do this book, Genesis. Very good book on AI and geopolitics. Walter Isaacson launched it, and he said it on CNN. We must ensure that these AI systems reflect our American values, our Western values and interests, not those of the Chinese. Very clearly. We must ensure that these AI systems reflect our American values, our Western values, and our interests, not those of the Chinese. And by the way, they don't say African because you're not doing anything. You're not a player. So you're not a player, so they don't talk about you. These things are not neutral. Oh, our Chinese ambassador is here. Are you Father Christmas? Are you any different, my brother? Certainly not. There's competition. Even the Chinese are looking after themselves. African, you're on your own. Biko was right. Black man, black woman, African, you are on your own. Our Chinese brothers are also looking after their interests. I mean, you don't blame them. Go tonight to DeepSeek R1, our Chinese product, and ask it, can you explain what happened at Times Square and the reasons behind it in 1989. I want to know. The AI system will say, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. I'm an AI assistant designed to provide helpful and harmless responses. So according to my Chinese brother who's sitting over there, discussing time in square is harmful. Don't talk about it. We don't blame you, Ambassador. We blame ourselves. We haven't written nothing. Otherwise, we'll be putting our own caveats in there. What we're simply saying is Africans, women, must write code. Otherwise, the code is written by white males in Silicon Valley. There will be no gender justice. Africans must be involved in writing AI systems because those who are writing are putting their interests and their values in it. And we don't blame them. We blame ourselves for being bystanders and consumers of AI. We must be creators of AI. And of course, I spoke about geopolitics, serious competition, US versus China. AI affects geopolitics, geopolitics affects AI. Here's a phrase from US Commerce Secretary just now in July. He says, we don't sell them, the Chinese, our best stuff, not our second best stuff, not even our third best stuff. So there's competition in this. It's a war. And of course, the Chinese responded by buying less of those NVIDIA. We must understand as we embrace AI for SDGs that there's a competition. Also understand AI as part of other technologies, mobile telephony, broadband, blockchain. It's part of an ecosystem. Don't embrace it in isolation if you're going to be effective with your SDGs. Synthetic biology, cryptocurrency, quantum computing. This one is very important because it's still green, not yet mature. Your computer is going to be 10 times faster. It's going to be 1 million times faster. What it took you a year to crack a code will take you 5 minutes. When you combine quantum computing and AI, you get a new revolution. And AGI and superintelligence can be achieved much sooner. Synthetic biology, we are creating new genes. We're modifying existing genes. We are resuscitating genes that are dead. Animals which are extinct are being resuscitated using synthetic biology. When you combine synthetic biology with AI, it's a new world. Understand this as you embrace SDGs and AI. There's a book there, The Coming Wave. You can look at it and see what's going on. The most important thing why we are here is the economy, the economy, the economy. This year, AI is projected to put into global GDP $11 trillion, 10% of global GDP coming from AI. That's why every time you switch on your TV, they're talking AI. It's money. $11 trillion of global GDP, which is 110, coming from AI. And $4 trillion from one type of AI. This is massive. This is a revolution. And these are ambitious numbers. Yes, if you want to be conservative, we go to McKinsey and Company. They're more conservative. They say, no, we'll get 15.7 in 2030. This year, 7. Even 7 is a lot of money. How much of this money are you going to experience as poor people, as Africa, as the Global South? That's why we wrote this book to say, can we take advantage of this revolution and make things happen? Ask yourselves, why is it happening? Why is this happening? When they ask you, why is AI such a revolution? Give them one word, productivity. Why is AI such a big deal? One word, productivity. AI has a staggering impact on productivity, or productivity per person. This is the message. This is the reason why we are in a revolution. What do we mean? AI is a productivity escalator. Where you had 1,000 units, now 20,000. 1,000 units, 50. Can you imagine if you have a factory? You used to produce 1,000 cars a week, now 10,000, now 50,000. That's what AI is doing in all industries. Driving productivity up is called an escalator of productivity. That is the reason why AI is. What we're saying is, why don't we use this productivity to solve poverty, to solve hunger, to solve water and sanitation issues, to produce access to education and healthcare? This huge productivity should be harnessed for human development. That's what we're trying to do in the book. Second argument, if they ask you, enhanced efficiency. And number 2, increased innovation. This is the reason why we have a revolution. Escalation of productivity, enhanced efficiency, increased innovation. To dramatize it, look at Goldman Sachs. Goldman is saying 95% of their complicated work is now being done by AI in minutes. In the past, they used to require 6 people in several weeks. Can you imagine? Your work is not very complicated. What about you? If Goldman Sachs is the leading financial consulting firm in the world, and they're saying 95% of work is being done in minutes by AI, and it used to require 6 people in multiple weeks. Only 5% requires a human being. This is the revolution we're talking about. And if in terms of economy, generative AI is equivalent to the Japanese economy. So in other words, generative AI alone is the number 4 economy in the world. Can you imagine? This is a revolution. And let's look at our own Mickey Mouse economies. South Africa, $400 billion, chicken change. Nigeria, nothing. Zimbabwe, we don't talk. In Botswana. So what we're saying is the economy is now being driven by AI. Our collective GDP as Africans, $3.4 trillion. We're even smaller than generative AI. How can we boost our economies using technology? That is the charge we address in this book. And of course, just to make sure you are clear, jobs are going to die. Job destruction is happening. That's number 1. But there's good news. There will be job modification. Most jobs won't die. Your job will be there but modified. But even better news, there will be new jobs, completely new jobs, which didn't exist before. Your obligation is to make sure you reskill the job losers. You reskill and prepare for the modified jobs. And more importantly, Vice Chancellor, we need new skills, new capabilities and competencies to take advantage of new jobs. Don't assume that they are there. This is what is happening about jobs. And we have what we call the job equation. Listen carefully, please. If we're going to do well in Africa, the new jobs plus the modified jobs must be much, much more than the destroyed jobs. Then we are doing all right. Otherwise, if that equation is reversed, we have a problem. And as we do this, let's not give each other propaganda. When the tractor came through, someone was trying to convince a horse. Mr. Horse, you won't lose your job to a tractor, but your horse will learn how to drive a tractor. No horse ever. So tell each other the truth, not falsehoods. The horse must train to become a racing horse. Or, the tractor, they can't learn how to drive it. So this is just a message to say, look, yes to adaptation, but don't lie to each other. The horse will never learn how to drive a tractor. What are the new jobs? Data scientists, machine learning engineers, AI software engineers, AI domain experts, AI prompt engineers. We must produce these at UJ, these at UCT, these at WITS. AI project managers, meta software engineer. Dean Marshall, how many meta software engineers are we producing? How many prompt engineers are we producing? Law faculty, how many smart contract lawyers are we producing? And by the way, a smart contract lawyer is a specialist lawyer who can ensure that the agreement made in the metaverse is encoded in blockchain layer. Do the lawyers even know what metaverse means in blockchain? We need new teachers to produce. We must make sure that it can't be business as usual in the academy. We need to make sure we produce skills to fit up with the new jobs. And for the students who are here, I got news for you. The certificate doesn't matter anymore. Don't show me your certificate. Show me what you can do. In addition to your little degree from UJ, your little degree from Harvard, from WITS, you must show me what you can do. What are your skills? So in addition to giving them a little degree, Vice Chancellor, give them some skills. What do we mean? Problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills, learning how to learn, learning how to unlearn, learning how to relearn. Financial literacy, digital skills, AI skills, entrepreneurial skills, knowledge of self. Knowledge of self is the beginning of knowledge. Mindset shift, can-do mentality, possibility thinkers, self-confidence, self-respect, self-awareness, assertiveness, and self-belief. If with your law degree, your engineering degree, you have these things, then we can talk. But don't show me your degree. Show me your skills. We are saying every university in South Africa must have financial literacy, entrepreneurship, AI skills as a requirement. Whether you're studying Zulu, sociology, vet science, or engineering, you must take a mandatory course in financial literacy, mandatory course in AI skills, entrepreneurial skills, so that when you go out there, you are able to function as a better lawyer, better sociologist, better engineer, better manager. These are the AI skills you must master. All of us must get a bit of that. This is what they're looking for in industry. And also, we now have what's called a chief AI officer and what they do. What are we saying? UJ must measure employability. Of your graduates from last year, how many are employed?
87%.
Excellent. That's what we want to hear. And you must track that. We must track that number. We must track that number. How many of them created companies? How many formed companies? You make my point. Anyway, what we're saying is, let us track employability and entrepreneurship.
12%.
12%.
I said because some are in the process.
Anyway, we're dramatizing people that, as we look at the academy, UCT, WITS, Harvard, Oxford, we are challenging you to say, of those graduates, how many are employed? Of those graduates, how many have been able to go and form companies, job creators, entrepreneurship, and employability must be measured in the academy, in addition to the first class, second class, and other things. Human capital developers must track and measure these two things. And I'm happy UJ is doing very well. I'm not sure about the others. We are doing very well over here. Yeah. I'm not sure about it. AI does not run on water. AI does not run on water, on air. It runs on chips. When you say, my stuff is in the cloud, I'm on ChatGPT, there's a machine in Silicon Valley running thing. What we're saying is we need to be players in the chips. The chips. The big company in the world is TSMC, which is Taiwan's semiconductor company, and then NVIDIA. The African must also play a role in this. We are going to solve this issue. And just to dramatize the point, NVIDIA crossed over the $4 trillion mark on the 9th of July. Today, I checked before I came in, it's $4.09 trillion. One company, that's just that hardware. Using your minerals from the DRC, your minerals from South Africa, your minerals from Zimbabwe. We are saying we must have a piece of that pie. Why don't we negotiate with Taiwan, with NVIDIA, so that we can get a piece of the pie? Because the minerals are ours. They're taking them raw and producing that one company, number one company in the world, is now NVIDIA. Just to show you, UNDP, mining is no longer the economy. I know you say we must create jobs in mining. Mining is a little baby. Look at Rio Tinto, look at BHP, vis-a-vis NVIDIA. AI is now the economy. So yes to agriculture, yes to mining, but number one is AI. Rio Tinto, BHP are small compared to NVIDIA. Oh, you thought Coca-Cola was big, McDonald's, Ford, look at them compared to NVIDIA. And look at the top three, they're all AI-driven. Meta, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. AI is the economy is AI. So when we seek to develop, when we seek to solve poverty, we must talk AI. Not McDonald's, not Coca-Cola, they're babies. Netflix is nothing. The economy is AI, AI is the economy. Here's my friend, Jensen, what does he say? AI will create more millionaires in the next 5 years than the internet did in 20 years. That's the prediction. He himself is worth $155 billion. But that's not my prediction. I'm not interested in that prediction. Here's my prediction. You and I must say, UNDP, Vice Chancellor, Minister, how many people will AI help move out of poverty? Can we address that? Not how many millionaires. I'll let them talk about the millionaires. You and I in the book are saying, how many people will AI move out of poverty? That's our question. Surely we can do something about this. China moved 800 million people out of poverty in 40 years. South Africa's country, we've got a population of 62, 17. Surely, can we move about 20 million out of poverty in South Africa? Maybe 2 million in Zimbabwe, Botswana 1 million. If China could do it, the Chinese are here, he's going to tell us. Tell us, how did you do it? We need answers today. And now China and America are leading in AI. They're still using AI to drive people out of poverty. Can we learn from the Chinese? Can we learn from India? Can we learn from Singapore? What are the lessons from China in terms of poverty alleviation, poverty eradication using technology? We must leverage AI to do this. Okay? What is the message as we come to the end? We must adopt and deploy AI. Even if it's biased, let's use it. But more importantly, let us create our own AI systems. Minister Kasukuwere from Zimbabwe, we need to produce AI systems. Are we doing that? I know you're not there these days. We must design, fabricate, and own the hardware that drives AI. That's my charge. Use AI, build your own AI systems, hardware. It's harder, the last one is harder, but the minerals are ours. If we do that, we can solve poverty. We can expand our circle of control. But we must not put the cart before the horse, deal with awareness, basic infrastructure. All these things are required preparing for AI. Governance and right mindset. And energy is so foundational. Again, China, you are our friend, really. We need to learn from you. Look at how they're producing energy, the Chinese. Can we learn from that? You know, South Africa, please. With load shedding, you must choose what you want. Load shedding or AI. You can't do both. Is that fair enough? You can't have load shedding and AI. No, they don't go together. We have a deficit in Zimbabwe of 600 megawatts, deficit in South Africa of 8,800, deficit in Zambia of 550. We must close this gap if we're going to do AI. Without energy, there's no AI. Close that gap. Close that gap. Just to dramatize, if AI data centers were a country, if they were a country, in 2030 they'll be number 4 in the world. That's the amount of energy. There'll be only 4 from China, India. If they were a country, right now they're down beyond Germany. But in 2030, they take so much energy. Data centers take a lot of energy, and also what we call AI factories. You know? And cassava is working with NVIDIA to bring the GPUs and NPUs into Africa, building AI factories. We're talking about gigawatt level. You know, in AI factory, you might have a gigawatt requirement of 2,000 megawatts. That's equivalent to Silicon Valley requirement for energy, or equivalent to your country, Zimbabwe, Minister Kasukuwere. That's just one data center. So how can we do data centers when we don't have energy? We need energy to do this. Lots of water for cooling. So again, you can see the tension between AI and climate change. Lots of energy is consumed, lots of cooling as well is required. It's not a silver bullet. You can't AI your way out of everything. Please, we need good governance, country governance. We need accountability. We need to eliminate corruption. You can't do corruption and AI. They don't go hand in hand. Make a choice. Corruption or AI, not both. We must deepen democratic practice. We need free and fair elections. You can't steal elections and use AI at the same time. No. Let's have free and fair elections, then we do AI. We need a national vision, national strategy. The usual things, we must design and build things. We need a plan at country level, at regional level, at continental level. We need a vision at the country. AI vision, AI strategy, and AI implementation matters at the country, then at the region, and the three must talk to each other. Country, region, and continent. That's how we're going to implement these things. And we will quickly just show a few things. Agriculture, precision farming, crop monitoring, automated machines, and we can see a bit of that.
If your farm looks like a sci-fi movie, you're in the future of agriculture. The AI in agriculture market is booming, going from $1.7 billion in 2023 to nearly $9 billion.
We can use robots there to do your harvesting. We can use drones.
A lot of people in the agriculture industry, growers, ranchers, academics, to bring about better, faster, and healthier workflows.
But the very same drones are in Gaza. The very same drones are in Ukraine.
Little is known about the event, except that Israel used the swarm attack to strike dozens of targets, together with other
AI is a double-edged sword. You saw that bomber that bombed Iran, $2.4 billion in one plane. A pilot and a bomber. In future, there will be no person there. It will be remote. It will be AI-driven.
It's the most expensive warplane ever made. It's invisible to radar, and it can deliver a nuclear strike without being seen. This is the B-2 GO.
Mining, predictive equipment maintenance, mineral exploration. These are the applications. We're a mining country, South Africa, a mining continent. There are so many things we can do with mining. How can we use AI in mining to improve jobs, to improve quality of life, to drive our economies? Many things we can do with mining. And then infrastructure, again, we go to China. We're learning a lot from China in terms of infrastructure, efficiency, damage detection. Look at our Chinese brothers.
157 kilometers of highway, 10 AI-powered machines, human supervisors watching from control rooms. China just achieved the world's first semi-autonomous paving operation, and the implications are massive. The machines made thousands of decisions independently, while humans monitored every move.
And then we can use those drones to build bridges. And then energy, as I said, is a double-edged sword. AI requires so much energy, so much water. So it's going against climate agenda. But at the same time, you can use AI to improve generation and manage energy. So it's really a tosser there. Is it a positive or a negative? Because it demands too much energy. You know, some companies are now building nuclear plants, private nuclear plants to generate energy for AI. And we're trying to reduce on our consumption of energy. And it requires a lot of water to do the cooling. But we can also use it to improve generation, predictive maintenance, renewable energy, fault detection. So
applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning for power generation. Hello, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we will discuss an exciting topic, applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning for power generation. With the world's increasing demand for energy, the power generation industry is constantly looking for innovative ways to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and minimize environmental impact.
And then, of course, lots of applications in renewable energy.
Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing the renewable energy sector in incredible ways. Imagine using AI for predictive maintenance, analyzing data from wind turbines or solar panels to force...
Then you can use AI to clean those things, energy management, health, diagnosis, personalized treatment, mental health, huge applications, SDG number 3, and also research, protein research. We can discuss some of those things in our, we won't spend too much time on that. Manufacturing, again, applications there.
Welcome.
And then decent work.
Is
vehicles, renewable.
The Waymo
autonomous vehicles.
Driverless car.
And again, it's driverless.
The idea of a large truck barreling down the highway, carrying a heavy load and without a driver's hands on the steering wheel may seem strange and even frightening to some. Well, in China, that is exactly what's now being tested. Along certain routes, driverless lorries are being allowed to operate under supervision. When it comes to smaller delivery vans, they're already sharing the streets with human-controlled vehicles. Our China correspondent Stephen McDonald reports.
These trucks. Okay. Banking sector. This technology affects every sector. There's no sector which is not affected by AI. But since we are in the academy, we need to emphasize education, SDG 4. Personalized learning, automated grading systems, virtual tutors, predictive student performance, adaptive learning. But the key issue, Vice Chancellor, is what we call personalization. You need teaching assistant for every teacher, for every professor. A unique personal tutor for every student. 40 teachers, 40 unique AI teaching assistants. 30 students, 30 unique AI personal tutors. 3 chemistry teachers, 3 different tutors, because you study the teacher and adjust for their weaknesses. Major applications in education. But there's a danger. critical thinking. Overuse of AI, abuse of AI, teachers have to be more creative in preparing assignments and labs. Otherwise, people are not learning. We must make sure that even with the use of AI, the student must be forced to apply their mind, exercise critical thinking, learn and relearn. So it's no longer easy for you to set the assignment. You must be very creative. For example, in computer science, you can say, if you go and use AI, but I want you to tell me what prompts you gave it, and I'll grade you on the prompts you use. Number two, when the AI gives you the answer, I want you to critique the AI answer. Then number three, I want you to improve the answer of the AI. You see, that way, number one, you're going to test them on the prompts they give the AI. Number two, they must critique the AI outcome. They must improve it. So you're forcing them to use AI, and also to tell us the weaknesses of the answer. But you can't ban AI. You can't say, don't use ChatGPT. Cape Town now has said, no, we're not going to look for that now. It's not practical. How did you survive the calculator? Remember when the calculator came in, the teacher of mathematics had to be very creative. You have to give a descriptive question, analysis, and then at the last end, that's when you can type in a calculator. You can still take your calculator and get an F in your matric exam. Why? Because the mathematics has improved beyond the calculator. You must do the same thing with AI. Teaching and learning can't be business as usual, but there's an existential crisis in education. Another proposal, Vice Chancellor, let us move away from the written examination to oral presentation. You must orally defend your ideas. You must orally defend your knowledge, just like we do vivas for the PhD. So the student must tell us, don't just present something from AI, talk about it. And AI won't help you talk about it. Anyway, all I'm saying, Vice Chancellor, it's not, you can't be business as usual. We have to be very creative if we're going to succeed. Okay? Governance, we know governance is a big issue, so there are many things we can do around governance. And I won't spend time on that. Public resources, implementing policies, promoting common good, many applications. The ministers are here. You can use AI to improve governance. You can use AI to simulate policy scenarios, evidence-based governance, and all these things, you can use AI to do these things. We are saying that AI can be used in all the SDGs to achieve the SDGs. And we can then analyze the applications for each and also look at direct impact, indirect impact. We're analyzing all these things in the book. What we're saying in the book, number one, why are we failing? We answer that question. What can we do in general to solve it? Then we say, how do we use technology, but more specifically, how we use AI. And we must write. Africans are not writing. I'm trying to walk the talk, VC. This is book number 8. I know some of them are political, so we can ignore the political ones and talk about the engineering ones. It's 5 out of 8 of the engineering. This is the book we're talking about. We must write and contribute to knowledge. Let us not just be consumers of knowledge, but creators of knowledge. That's what we're doing there. And also read other people's books. The book Coming Wave we talked about, Genesis, The Cheap War. Harari is a very interesting writer. Ray Kezo, this guy is a very key player in terms of predicting AI, predicting knowledge, NVIDIA way. All these things, the woman is very critical of AI. She thinks it's no good. Let's read what she's got to say. We know there are dangers. We know there are risks. But why don't we concentrate on the positive to achieve the SDGs? We must have urgency. We must have an ecosystem approach. We must use AI to achieve these things. All these things, Professor Graham, will rise or fall on leadership. Political leadership, economic leadership, business leadership, civic society leadership, and of course, leadership in participating in the hardware that drives AI. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to listen to me. I took a bit of time, but it's important that Einstein said things must be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. So I tried to make them as simple as possible, but not simpler. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Prof. Mutambara. You're always very inspiring. Thank you, VC. You're always so inspiring. You're a master of words in your presentations. I'm sure you would all agree with me. You managed to put the word superintelligence and Trump in the same presentation, and we can only say congratulations. But also the idea of bringing extinct animals to life. So you're telling me Jurassic Park could happen?
Yes, certainly. It's work in
We'll wait to
progress.
see. And Human 2.0, I have a twin sister, so I already have a double. So if I have to have two machines, there'll be 4 of us walking around. Is that what you're saying? It's so important that we have discussions like this and more of them. You're really an amazing speaker, but also you provoke a lot of thought. That's why I use the word provocateur. You provoke us to think things through and think differently. So thank you so much for that, for reminding us that AI is not simply about algorithms and codes, but it's about power and it's about ethics and the future of humanity itself. Very deeply challenging. So thank you again for those. And just to say that at UJ, we're happy to say we have AI and the FOIA SLP free to the public, digital literacy and financial literacy free to the public SLP, so we're on our way. We're getting there. Thanks so much, Prof. So now we have the privilege of hearing brief reflections from an extraordinary group of leaders, voices from government, business, diplomacy, academia, and the judiciary, each of whom is going to bring a unique lens on AI and sustainable development in tonight's discussions. And we'll move on to our next speaker. So Ralph will let Prof. Mutambara know when he's ready. And I'll ask Mr. Maxwell Gomera, who I saw enter earlier, of the UNDP, who reminds us that sustainability is not a luxury, it's survival. He knows better than most how global finance and local realities must meet. So I'll ask Maxwell, please, to have your say for around 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Can I remove this? Can I shut? Yeah. Well, good evening. Why are people looking unhappy here? Arthur, what have you done? Professor Mutambara. I'm quite certain that when superintelligence happens, we'll first hear about it from Professor Mutambara. But really believe it when it starts impacting the lives of ordinary people like you and I. A few years ago, I was in a small village in Mugesera, Rwanda. I met a woman who changed how I think about innovation, about technology, and about our shared humanity. Her name is Marie-José. She's a mother of 4 children. When I met her, she told me something that still haunts me up to today. Every day, she said, I wake up early and walk distances of up to 5 kilometers in search of firewood to make food for my family. As I do so, I compete with men sometimes twice my size. On some days, I'm lucky and go back home with firewood. On others, I'm not so lucky, and I go back with nothing. She paused and continued. In those days, when I go with nothing, my children do not go to school. Or if they do, they go to school on an empty stomach. She looked around at the people who were with us and pointed to some young girls who had babies strapped on their backs. You see those young girls? She said, some of them were raped on their way to and from fetching firewood. That broke my heart. That is ridiculous. How have we found ourselves in this space where we can create driverless cars, where we can send people to the moon, but are still not able to provide rural Africans with cooking energy and technology that they can afford at their income level? Access to energy and food security are fundamental sustainable development goals. Yet today, as Professor Mutambara has told us, we are just 5 years away from 2030. And according to the UN's own reports, only 17% of the SDG targets are on track to be achieved. Over a third are either stalled or regressing. But why, you might be asking yourself, why do we persist in this failure? To my mind, there are two fundamental reasons for that. The first reason is we are not solving for Africa. Our engineers, our designers, our financial experts are not coming up with cooking technology that is affordable at the income levels that Africans can afford. Africans are very proud people. Given the right technology, they will adopt it quickly. Just look at the proliferation of DSTV in the informal settlements of South Africa. Just look at the latest cars that you see on our roads here. Just look at the number of personal digital assistants that are in everybody's hands. Africans will adopt technology if it comes at the right price and it solves an African problem. Second, we have a mindset problem. We are not solving problems that are on our doorstep to begin with. Instead, we are solving problems in Europe, in China, in America. The problem isn't a lack of global ambition. It's that we've been conditioned to believe, Professor Mutambara, that global means everywhere except Africa. What determines which market is global? Why is it that a carpenter who's chasing European buyers is seen as ambitious, but one tackling Africa's massive housing deficit is dismissed as local? Africa has 1.4 billion people, the fastest growing youth population on earth, and it has chronic infrastructure gaps. That isn't a side market. That's the world's biggest untapped opportunity. Even the success stories that we see around us tell the same story. Cassava, I haven't seen any of them here. They are being successful because they are solving a problem that is helping Africans, and starting with Africa. MTN, we're going to hear from their CEO. They are solving a problem that is here on the continent, and they are being successful. M-Pesa began as a simple solution for Kenyan farmers to send money. It now processes billions across Africa. Jumia started the same. Time Bank here in South Africa started the same. It's solving a problem that's on the continent. These companies are winning, not because they copied Asia, but because they solved for Africa first. And that's what we must do. Businesses that are not rooted in African realities are likely to fail. It's true that the Kigali carpenter should have a global ambition. But in our context, global means saving Africa's 1.4 billion people. And that's how we'll take them out of poverty. So how do we change this? And I'll end on this. How do we change this? First, we need to bring down the transaction costs of innovation. And bringing down the transaction of innovation means that people like Professor Mutambara must write the books that he has written. Because what he has done, what you have done, Professor, is to make sure that the next innovator doesn't have to go and do the research that you've been doing, doesn't have to start from zero. You have brought down the costs, the transaction costs of innovation. And here at UJ, we've gone even a step further. It's unfortunate the Vice Chancellor has left, but when you have time, you should go and have a look at the University Innovation Pod that we're establishing here in partnership with the university, where we have brought Silicon Valley to Johannesburg, because we believe fundamentally that Africans may not be winning the innovation race, not because we are genetically inferior, but because the transaction costs of innovating on this continent are way too high for a student and an African who wants to do that. That we are changing. Second, we need empathy. I was with Professor Mutambara at some point in Rwanda, and we were driving on the roads. There was a driver who believed that it was only his time that was more important, and he wanted to go ahead of us. I was humbled by Professor Mutambara's reaction. He said, you see, right there, that's a lack of empathy. That man there thinks that only his priority is important. lack of empathy manifests itself in many ways. Across Africa, we tend to reward notoriety, while innovators struggle. Young people who are trying to get into business, women who are trying to get into business, we are not rewarding them. Instead, we are rewarding people who are doing notorious things. Third, we also need technology. Combining AI, as you have said, Professor, enabling us to code with CNC machines, with 3D printers, that is what will move us. And to quote your thinking in your own book, the staggering, unprecedented, transformative power of artificial intelligence must be harnessed to address socioeconomic and political problems worldwide. You're absolutely right about that. AI must serve what you're calling transformative force as a transformative force for collective good, benefiting the entire planet. The roadmap is there. The question is, do we have the will to do it? Now, Marie-José's life was on hold, but we didn't accept that as an inevitability. Working with the technology firm and some banks, we deployed home biogas systems that now give her cooking energy. She owns a cow that she got from the government as part of a government program. And we've also deployed in her house a hydroponic system that creates a household economy on its own. We have scaled that solution to thousands of others. The tools are in our hands. The frameworks are in your book, and we should use those. The last time I saw Marie-José, she said 5 words that will stay with me forever. I have my dignity back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maxwell Gomera. I think your story that you just told there really brought a human face to this whole discussion around AI. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's very sobering, but it's not hopeless. So thank you so much for that. I'd now like to call upon our next speaker, our former minister, Ms. Lindiwe Zulu. Thank you so much for being here to take to the podium for your 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for this opportunity. First, I must apologize that I'm arriving now. I was driving all the way from Eswatini. So the professor knows I had to be in Eswatini, and it's, from a South African perspective, it's Heritage Day, Heritage Month. And in Eswatini, they were celebrating the traditional reed dance. I hope some of you one day will go and watch it, you know. I don't know if you know anything about it. Prof, it's a pity I missed your input and all that, but fortunately you had given me the book last Friday as I was on my way to Eswatini, so I did try to read as much as I possibly can. The first thing that I would like to say is South Africa is committed to the UN Sustainable Goals, and I think that's very well known by those that are in the academia, those that are in government, those that are in partnership with government to make sure that there is progress in South Africa. And I think probably some of the speakers must have said something about South Africa aligning its national development plan with the global agenda's call to end poverty, environmental protection, and universal peace and prosperity. And so when the SDGs were started, I was also in government at the time, and I think the main reason why Prof invited me to be here is because, one, I was a Minister of Small Business Development at some point, and I think what we're talking about here and the things that Prof has written about in the book about helping us find solutions using technology as far as we possibly can to support your small and medium enterprises, that's something that we have to do. The second one is that I was also a Minister of Social Development, and there I was to experience the importance of the usage of technology to support not only the grant recipients, but to support government to develop systems that are able to respond to the needs of our people and enable them not to be in queues for too long, not to be struggling to access what government has promised them, but using technology, and therefore the use of AI as something that we all need to do something and not be afraid of. Those of us who are nearing our 70s, I think many of us are fearing technology when actually we should embrace it, we should use it, we should encourage ourselves and encourage the youth in particular to use it, but use it in a manner that is supportive of them in education, in universities, and everywhere. So I'm answering the question, for instance, why am I here? Because one might ask, why am I here? I'm here also because, firstly, I do believe, as the author sums it up in the book is dedicated to technology-driven sustainable development as a basis for economic transformation. Who doesn't know about the struggles of South Africa and the African continent in general in as far as economic transformation is concerned? I do believe technology developed from a purpose of improving systems and services for all our people can help create a conducive environment for people to improve their lives. Secondly, and as it is expressed in the introduction, I believe sustainable development is essential because it aims to balance economic growth, social inclusion, and I would put social inclusion in capital letters, again, understanding the history of South Africa, environmental protection to ensure a prosperous future. And this must be for all, not just a few who are privileged. I also believe in the importance of ensuring that the needs of the people today are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. A very big challenge, especially not only for South Africa, but for the entire continent. Fourthly, and most importantly, I have witnessed Professor Arthur Mutambara in the world of politics. I did. I have experienced him. And there are days when I used to wonder, what is he doing sitting there with us in those meetings of the Government of National Unity, whatever we called it. So when Professor Mutambara asked me to come here, I've explained the reason why I thought it was important for me to come here. I have experienced, Professor, sometimes where I felt it's important for us in the political space to have people who can be able to count maths, people who can relate to science, people who can relate to technology. And I was happy, and I'm still happy, that Professor Mutambara not only continued to do what he does best, and I witnessed that book, and as I was reading the book, I realized that there's many other books that he has written. Put aside the politics, but let's deal with what he is now. But I also believe that people like him must continue to be engaged in politics. Don't run away from the politics because the world is full of politics. The fact that you are a professor in very complicated areas of work doesn't mean that you must forget about the fact that you need to help the political space so that the technology that you talk about, the DSGs that you have written about, are DSGs that can be implemented. It is very painful. It was painful, actually, as I was going through some of the chapters that I tried to pick up, to realize that only 17%, was it 17%, of the DSGs have been implemented, and I was trying to get into ourselves as South Africa to find out what percentage have we ourselves managed to implement in as far as the SDGs are concerned. We have a long way to go, but we don't have a lot of time, considering that 2030 is just around the corner, not only for the DSGs, but even for the National Development Plan. So I'd like to thank you for having taken the time, the courage. You must have traveled a lot also. You must have worked with a lot of people who are doing research and all, and it's clear in the book that that is what you have done. But as I conclude, I also would like to pass this message and say the United Nations agencies that have been working with us, for instance, I know I've dealt with the UNDP a lot in as far as this is concerned. They provided strategic support to advance progress towards the SDGs, emphasizing the shift from promises to tangible action. We've also worked as well as the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. They all are calling upon us to implement, because to have these good books and everything nicely written there, and the people of the country called South Africa, but also the entire continent, not being able to experience what Professor Mutambara is talking about is a waste, and we must not waste the time that is remaining. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Zulu, for introducing two E's to this evening's event: eloquence and elegance. Just very beautifully done. Thank you so much. I'd now like to call upon our next honored guest this evening. We know that the People's Republic of China is at the forefront of AI innovation, and Prof. Mutambara alluded to that quite a lot in his presentation. So I'd now like to call upon the Minister Zhang, China's Deputy Head of Mission, to come and address us. Minister.
Thank you, Director General, for your Director Programs for your introduction. And Professor Arthur Mutambara, and distinguished scholar and guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here at the University of Johannesburg for the launch of the new book, Deploying Artificial Intelligence to Achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. On behalf of the Chinese Embassy in South Africa, please allow me to extend my warmest congratulations to Professor Arthur Mutambara and his team for the pioneering work in advancing research and debate on artificial intelligence. This publication is not only an academic achievement, but also a forward-looking contribution to global discourse on one of the most pressing challenges of our time: how to harness the transformative power of artificial intelligence to deliver the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The book reviews why progress on the SDGs has been uneven, and it highlights the importance of cooperation, funding, infrastructure, and inclusive innovation. More importantly, it warns against digital imperialism and technological exclusion, advocates for democratizing AI, ensuring that emerging economies are not left behind. These insights are highly relevant, and I believe this work will inspire both policymakers and academics to think more deeply about AI's role in shaping a fairer and more sustainable world. AI is no longer a distant vision. It has become one of the most powerful engines driving a new scientific and industrial revolution. From smart manufacturing and medical diagnostics to climate modeling and education, AI is transforming societies at an unprecedented pace. At the same time, AI brings risks and challenges, ethical dilemmas, governance gaps, and the danger of widening inequality. No country can address these issues alone. Tonight's theme also resonates with the wider arc of China-South Africa and China-Africa cooperation. Our comprehensive partnership has always been outcomes-oriented, from industrial parks and infrastructure to digital skills and people-to-people exchanges. The next chapter must elevate AI for development as a shared mission to reduce poverty, expand access to quality education and healthcare, strengthen climate resilience, and build inclusive innovation ecosystem across the global South. Ladies and gentlemen, the development and governance of AI is a pressing challenge, calling for efforts of all countries. But the absence of a dedicated intergovernmental international organization has led to fragmented governance. China has made AI development a national priority. At global level, at the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation in 2023, President Xi Jinping has put forward the Global AI Governance Initiative, calling for an open, inclusive, fair, and safe AI environment that benefits all. During the 2025 World AI Conference in Shanghai, Chinese Premier Li Qiang announced that the Chinese government proposed the creation of a global AI cooperation organization. China welcomes South Africa and any other country with an interest to engage in a preparatory process of establishing the organization, which will be open and inclusive. In 2024, a Chinese startup named DeepSeek released a new AI system that drew wide global attention for its competitiveness and cost effectiveness, showing that talent and innovation nurtured in China can stand at the global frontier. Today, China has established a complete AI ecosystem spanning fundamental research, industrial application, and governance. AI is already contributing to healthcare, agriculture, poverty alleviation, and environmental protection in China. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa is also placing AI and digital transformation high on its national agenda. The University of Johannesburg is at the forefront, nurturing young talents, advancing frontier research, and shaping ethical debates. China is proud to partner with South Africa in this important field. At the 2024 FOCAC Beijing Summit, our leaders agreed to establish a China-Africa Digital Technology Cooperation Center and to launch 20 joint projects in digital transformation and AI. South Africa, with its innovation capacity and strong academic tradition, is an indispensable partner in this global dialogue. The SDGs are a deadline, not a slogan. If AI is to accelerate progress by 2030, then our cooperation must be ambitious, inclusive, and verifiable. This book launch is more than an academic milestone. It is a symbol of our joint commitment to harnessing artificial intelligence responsibly and inclusively in service of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Let's work together to ensure that AI becomes a driver of cooperation, innovation, and shared progress, bringing tangible benefits to China, South Africa, and the wider world. The Embassy of China stands ready to work with South African partners, nationally and provincially, with university and TVET colleges, with startups and established firms to turn this agenda into projects and projects into measurable SDG gains. Congratulations once again, and thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Minister, for your speech and for your message of support, and also for the growing and meaningful partnerships between China and UJ in particular. We thank you so much for those. I'd now like to call upon my former boss, that is Professor Camila Naidu, the Executive Dean for the Faculty of Humanities, who ensures us we never forget that technology must serve humanity, not the other way around. I'd now like to call upon Prof. Naidu.
Use my glasses at least. Okay, good evening, everyone. Prof. Arthur Mutambara and Program Manager Susie Graham, and all our distinguished guests who are here today. All protocols noted. I'd like to begin by thanking Prof. Arthur Mutambara for delivering a distinguished 4-hour lecture at our faculty not so long ago. It was a real treat to have you, Prof. Mutambara. He discussed many core and brilliant ideas that I see surfacing in this new book. I'm not going to be giving any details here. I was asked to talk very briefly, so this is just a soundbite. In his talk in the library, he referred to the drivers of human development, the need to build solidarity and cooperation. He hasn't talked a lot about solidarities and cooperation. I think that's a critically important element. And the need for visionary leadership, and of course, inclusive economic transformation. And much of this reverberates in the new book that we are discussing today, entitled Deploying Artificial Intelligence to Achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I left it for the last minute, and I thought I'll read this over 2 days, but it has 13 chapters and 400 pages of rich information, so it is not easy and we can't do speed reading of this particular book. So maybe, Prof, the next book that you write, maybe use ChatGPT to cut it down, to trim it down. So the book is, and I really appreciate this, it's a call to action, urging an AI-enabled, equitable path towards achieving the SDGs. Prof. Mutambara engages with the question of how AI can accelerate the 17 interconnected UN Sustainable Development Goals, noting that achievements to date have been uneven and fragmented. He says in the preface that there is a danger that AI will widen global inequality, and I think we need to talk more about that. There is a real possibility that AI will entrench existing inequities, what we in the humanities are particularly concerned about, leading to heightened political instability, environmental degradation, and cultural dominance. He refers to risks such as digital imperialism, data colonialism, algorithmic bias, and technological exclusion, especially as they affect developing countries. So these are important warnings that many countries have not paid sufficient attention to. But whilst he notes the negatives, he situates his book within a package of evidence to offer guidelines on how we might mitigate these challenges. And I think that his guidelines are particularly important. And he's confident, as we heard today and as he presented himself today, that AI must serve as a transformative force for the collective good, benefiting the entire planet and all its inhabitants equitably. I like the idea of dashboard that you presented today, Prof. Mutambara, through which we can capture the concrete progress that has been made. Prof. Mutambara proposes a 6-pillared strategic framework to guide AI deployment towards the SDGs: vision, strategy, policy, governance, legislation, and the implementation matrix. These pillars aim to bridge theory and practice, enabling policymakers to take immediate steps towards integration. Every continent, regional bloc of states, country, organization, and community must develop and adopt a workable framework. And I think this was quite an interesting set of concepts that you gave us here that many of our scholars and students will find useful to engage with. The book refers to decolonizing and democratizing AI, and importantly, the need for in-country and regional AI research, infrastructure, and participation in critical industries. The book also addresses the geopolitical dimensions of AI, noting how competition among global powers may exclude or disadvantage the global south. What I particularly liked were the chapters addressing each of the SDGs, with thoughts and research motivating how AI might positively impact enabling the achievement of each SDG, and that took a lot of painstaking work. I think these chapters were grounded and practical and action-orientated. Overall, I see the book as refreshing and meaningful and can serve as a great resource for our students and researchers who want to be part of a broader agenda to seek African solutions for a prosperous future in Africa. The book helps us to move away from a debilitating pessimism and suggests that through concerted and deliberate interventions, the SDGs can be attained. Mutambara says, political and business leaders, policymakers, academics, and civil society activists and ordinary citizens must reignite momentum towards the SDGs, ensuring that 2030 becomes a milestone of achievement rather than a moment of regret. I appreciate the ultimate optimism of the book and the spirit in which it is written. The detail, depth, and policy recommendations, as well as the very bright pictures in color, are very impressive. And I certainly hope that the book will be used and engaged with by scholars and that it becomes an inspiring and exciting text guiding transformative action and genuine fundamental change. So thank you to Prof. Mutambara from the Faculty of Humanities, and congratulations on the publication of this innovative book.
Thank you very much, Prof. Naidu. You clearly did read the whole book because that was a very comprehensive review. Thank you so much for that. I'd now like to call upon Professor Babu Paul. He's the director of the Institute for AI Systems here at UJ and brings both academic rigor and applied research to the AI frontier. Where's Prof. Babu sitting? Oh, there we go.
Good evening, everyone, those who are here and those who are online. Maybe good afternoon, good morning to those who are online also over there. So I did write something, but because before going to that one, let me take a cue from Mr. Maxwell's example. We started the 4IR drive some 4 or 5 years back. 5, 6 years back, in 2018 or so, 2019, and a janitor, a cleaner who cleans the toilet, came to the Vice Chancellor and said, "How is it going to help me?" And this was a very big question on our face, that how this university having a direction of 4IR, a thrust area of 4IR, how is it going to help him? Then we sat with him. We asked, what is your problem? Because we didn't go to say, you will be able to do banking on your phone and all those. We didn't go to say that. We sat with him and asked that, what is your problem in the university? He told, you have seen this big building. This building is quite big, APK. There are multiple cubicles, multiple toilets, and and in each cubicle there is a place where you keep the napkins, that is the toilet rolls. How do I get to know? I am walking up and down. How do I get to know that which toilet roll has finished? And this is quite a problem. And this is, because if you were a janitor, you would have understood that you would have to walk up and down this full half-kilometer building Then we took that problem and we solved it. And he could get, and how did we solve it? It is a very small thing. It is not a very big thing. It takes only 2 months to solve it. You just add some IoT-based devices to the toilet rolls, means the holders, and they communicate to a GSM unit, and the GSM unit, whenever the roll goes down, it detects, it sends an SMS to the person that this is the location and this is where it has happened. So basically, there will be no one coming to do this for us. We will have to do it on our own. Yeah, different places, different problems. So having said that, because I was taking a cue from your thing. So first of all, let me congratulate you, Prof, on the thing. When I go to class, I asked what sustainability is. Because I am from AI background, but when I talk about sustainability, I talk what sustainability is. And different people said different things about sustainability. UN is working with sustainability for the last 60, 70 years. It started with the Bartland Commission in 1987 or so, when UN was talking about the Bartland Commission. Basically, Bartland is the Prime Minister of Norway. She was the Prime Minister of Norway. And during that time, they were talking about responsible innovation, which is very, very important now, responsible innovation. We are doing innovation with AI, but how responsible are we? During that time, in the Bartland Commission report, they came up with a very beautiful definition for sustainability. Is a business making profitable sustainable? Is a self-running thing sustainable? What is sustainability? So this I will quote her. Meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So we are basically, sustainability basically means that we are not compromising the needs of the future generations. Yeah, so that our children can stay in this world and enjoy as we are enjoying. So this Bartland Commission then followed by UN's Millennium Development Goals. If you look at the Millennium Development Goals, there were 8 development goals. And then came in 2015. The Millennium Development Goals were also lagging behind. Then in 2015 came the Sustainable Development Goals, which is more holistic. People say that it is for people on the world. But I often said that it is not for people on the planet, it is for people inside the planet also. Because it talks about life underwater also. That is our life that is underwater, it talks about that also. So the aim is basically to make a beautiful art, not only for us, but for the future generations also. Now the question that we need to ask is, can the use of AI accelerate the SDGs? Because currently the world is in a very difficult situation. You can see, I don't know if you are following the news, today only, yesterday and today, Nepal, there is a thing going where Mount Everest is, Nepal, the government has toppled. And it was toppled, the Prime Minister had to resign, and it was toppled by the Gen Z. It is called the Gen Z revolution. All people, those who are only 17, 18, 19 years old, below 25 years old, they have toppled the government. What is the trigger point? The trigger point is that the government had asked the social media giants to enroll with the government. They did not do it in 7 days. It was blocked. There are other trigger points which were before, which accumulated. The government suspended the social media, and then the Gen Z came out. Now you say, but it is not only the social media. There is corruption, means this added, all this added. Corruption was there, nepotism was there. So all this added. The trigger point happened was that when? Because when we say social media, it is not only a thing to say, hi, how are you? Business is dependent on social media. People do advertise on social media their businesses. our young youth use social media for other purposes also, like education and everything. So basically, AI has the potential to fast track the SDGs. Yeah, so some of the, Professor Mutambara had asked me that you talk about some of the projects that you are doing, and so I will just talk it in brief, because I see Professor Susie looking at the watch. Yeah, so some of the projects that are going on, drug design and drug discovery for cancer and for hypertension, because we had Indaba just yesterday where we were having all the AI projects that we were doing. Yeah. So how? Because, and it is basically personalized medication. So that we are working on. Then we have an AI-based intelligent IoT-based monitoring, health monitoring system, which is applicable for hospitals. If you have scarcity of nurses, the AI system can do it. So this addresses the SDG 3, that is good health. Then we have, our South Africa has its own problems of poaching. That is our rhino poaching. Our South Africa, I think the other advanced countries don't have this problem. Cattle theft. Billions of dollars are lost in cattle theft in the border areas. So we are working on the AI-based wildlife and livestock welfare. That is SDG 15. Then we have our metaverse research unit. We are developing our own metaverse for teaching purposes, for our law students, for our CBE students. So that addresses SDG 4, quality education. Actually, most of our projects that we are doing are addressing this one. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Babu Paul, for your presentation and for helping us out with some practical examples, which was quite nice to hear, and also for telling us to remember responsible innovation. Thank you very much for your thoughts on that. I'd now like to call upon a voice of justice and wisdom. So I'm going to call Justice Omei to the podium. He will probably remind us that AI, no matter how advanced, must always remain accountable to human values and the rule of law, but let's wait and see. Thanks, Justice.
Good evening. Please take heart. This is not my prepared speech. It's a document that I've used to record some notes. So I will try to keep to the 5 minutes that's been allocated to all the speakers. First, I wish to say to Arthur, I do take the liberty of calling him Arthur. And professor at the university. I have known Arthur for more than 35 years, Arthur. We met years ago at Oxford. He was my senior. We are not in the same discipline. He was, I suppose, a proper scientist, and at the time I was a microbiologist. I remember him saying to me at the time and say, Mpimetse, we have to go back to Africa. We can't sit here. And he has held true to his call at the time. And I just wanted to reflect on what I find most impressive about him. There is a book which is called In Search of the Elusive Zimbabwean Dream. It happens to be one of the books here on the table, and it was Arthur's first volume to a trilogy of books that he wrote. And when you look at some of the pictures in that book, you will see a very almost thin young man wearing a very, very short pair of shorts, being barefoot, with sisters, and it is this professor next to me. And I reflect on that image in part based on what Arthur said in his presentations about Africans having to write their own stories and the need to document. I think that this university in particular is very privileged to have a person of, and I'm quite comfortable in saying this, very privileged to have a person of Arthur's genius as a member of the faculty. I mentioned that we met at Oxford, but he was really shaped in Zimbabwe. He was shaped at the University of Zimbabwe, which at some point in the past was a great institution. So to the students in particular who are here, you are privileged to be in the company of Arthur. As you can tell, he is a man of many talents. His interests are not just in robotics, which was the subject of his doctorate at Oxford. He cares deeply about society. He cares deeply about people. And I think that is a mark of a person who genuinely has the love of society generally. What about then the real subject of Arthur's presentation about AI and sustainable development? I come in and being expected to say something about the relationship between AI or how AI may bear on the law, on justice and development. Arthur mentioned as well, I believe this is related, he mentioned superhuman intelligence, rather superintelligence. It's a notion that intrigues me because as a lawyer and the nature of the law and what the law is meant to do in society, the question is how will AI or how can AI be put to use in the service of the law? Or perhaps even can AI be put in use in the service of the law, given the nature of the law? Because ultimately, the law, I call the law a fiction in the sense that the law is what the community, society says, this is who we are, this is the type of people who we are, and this is how we are going to govern our relations. So to me, I'm intrigued by Arthur's reflections as to how AI can be put to use as far as the law is concerned. Can we relegate decision-making to computational outputs? Can zeros and ones have a sense of, yes, this person did leave the store with a loaf of bread without paying, but the person was hungry? Is this something that a machine, zeros and ones, can give an output on? And if that were the case, what would be the result? Having said that, as Arthur said, AI can be a double-edged sword. There are aspects, it seems to me, where certain issues which the law is called upon to address could potentially be automated. As to whether that will result in justice, I think as society broadly, ultimately we will have to decide whether we broadly as society are comfortable with a computer or computation being assigned to decide the rights and wrongs of how we govern ourselves or what we say about ourselves as society. But Arthur, you have outdone yourselves. Again, I looked at your publications. This is your 6th book since 2017. I know that lawyers, my principal when I was doing articles, after we were doing a transaction and I added a number of zeros, and then he was very kind to me and said that, well, I forgive you, lawyers cannot count. But Arthur, in this instance, I think from 2017, this is your 6th publication. And I do know, as you have said, that there's another one that is coming, which we have talked about, in which you will reflect about the Mutambara family from the 1600s. I so eagerly wait to read that. So you remain an inspiration. Many of us haven't written anything. We have written many books, but in our heads, of course, that doesn't count. And when you committed your thoughts to paper, you subjected yourself to the scrutiny not only of your peers in the academy, but to the scrutiny of others who, given how you write, your books are accessible to. So I think we are privileged in this country to have you as a member of one of the academies. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Justice Mookie. I think one of our most debonair speakers tonight, so thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Thank you so much to all the speakers for all of your insights, rich, nourishing, all congratulatory, Prof. Arthur, so no criticism. I think you can be satisfied there. You've done your job. But now I'd like to invite the audience to participate and join the conversation. This is your chance, really, to ask questions and probe a little bit deeper. We have a little bit of time, perhaps for 2 rounds of questions, but I'm going to ask Prof. Arthur to join me again at the podium. And if you do have a question, please make sure it's one question, that it's succinct and legible. So speak up, please. Prof. Arthur, please join me. And let's see hands. Who would like to ask? I have a very keen person over here. The next with the very dashing red handkerchief in the pocket. Anybody from the right side of the room? Yes, we have a hand at the back. So we'll take those 3 to start, and then we'll come to you at the next round. Okay.
Good evening, everybody, and congratulations to Professor Arthur Mutambara. My name is Edwin Moyo, also writing books on technology. The question I want to ask the professor is, how are we going to deal with issues of emotions?
Very short and sweet. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Prof. My name is Mbarashe Mafukidze, and I think thank you so much for the work that you're doing in artificial intelligence, especially on the African continent. My question is, what do you think that the youth here at UJ and the African continent at large should be doing, given how important artificial intelligence is for the future of the continent?
Good evening, everybody. I want to give context for my question, right? At the beginning, you said sustainability is like a pregnancy, and observing countries like China would be fruitful for us. And seeing China, their main foundation of skills is focusing on kids. And the theme of today's discussion is has been university this, university that. So my question is, how can we address the root of our skills development, starting with childhood, to ensure that the workforce is more prepared for AI?
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. Emotions. You know, as we speak right now, people are trying to build into these machines emotions. They're trying to build in what's called intentionality into a machine. You know, it's one thing to build a robot that obeys you, but quite another to have a robot that says, I know you programmed me to do this, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to. Intention in a machine. Not yet achieved, but work in progress. Emotions in a machine. Right now, we have not achieved that. That's why I was arguing that at the moment, we're going to have the machine plus human beings so we can have those emotions of the person, the human augmentation. But with time, you know, as scientists, we never say never. There are people who are working on building machines that shows emotions, you know, frustration, anger, love, and intention. Yeah, sympathy, yes. But as I said earlier on, you could say, why are we doing that? Scientists are always curious. Okay, so they won't stop because of morality or because you think it's not a good idea. Secondly, there's competition between China and America, Russia and America. So this work will continue, but at the moment, not yet done, but work in progress, to have intentionality in a machine, to have emotions in a machine. Skills, young people must make sure they master the skills and competencies that are required for you to take up the new jobs. When I say a prompt engineer, when I say a smart contract lawyer, when I say a Discord manager, it's important that young people arm themselves with the skills, competencies, and capabilities that are required for you to thrive and flourish under the AI revolution. Not only that, we must master entrepreneurship. We must master financial skills. That's why I'm saying every one of our products in the university must go through a course in entrepreneurship, a course in financial literacy, and also digital skills and AI skills. So the revolution is there for the young people to take, but it can't be business as usual. Ask yourself, how can I be a better manager because of AI? How can I use AI as a differentiator in my business? So the sky is the limit for young people. Kids, you know, China is here, I'm very, very happy. What they're doing in China, starting from this year, everyone in the kindergarten level, primary school are being taught AI. AI must start in the kindergarten level, primary school, secondary school. The university is the last stage. And when China announced, Donald Trump also announced, in this September, he's going to do the same. So these big players have realized your question. So they're starting at kindergarten level. They're going to primary school to teach AI. And China is rolling out the program, and America is following suit. We need to do the same, because the sooner that young people master the skills, master the mindset of AI, the better. So we are going to learn from China about kindergarten and primary school. We're going to learn from America, learn from ourselves. We must customize these things to ourselves, but you are very correct. We must start at a very junior level. Let me take another set of questions.
Okay, I definitely saw your hand first at the back there in the black jumper, and then, we have a pressing hand at the back there, the beautiful female at the back, and then you, sir. Those three. Then we'll come back to you, okay, for the next round.
No, thank you, Prof. My name is Luhumo Divakwani. I'm the current Central SRC Academic Officer. So my question is, in what ways can AI personalize learning without reinforcing historical inequalities? And another thing is, what systems will you put in place to ensure that we, for example, protect a situation wherein information that's generated by AI favors those that are advantaged to the detriment of those that are in less disadvantaged areas? For example, AI gives us what we feed it. So a lot of what's there in ChatGPT, for example, I'm a teacher. When, for example, I need context in terms of how I'm going to deliver my lesson, it normally tells me that I should take students to a swimming pool, but then I'm teaching in Soweto, there are no swimming pools. So how can we find a way to ensure that we integrate everything and not have a situation wherein we now have a two-tier system, schooling system? Thank you.
Good afternoon, and congratulations, Professor Arthur Mutambara, on your
fantastic book. My name is Tambundoro, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Sustain Y Strategies. I'm also the daughter of Gloria Ndoro Mkombachoro. She asked me to, to mention that, and she's the one actually who sent through the invitation because I'm based here in South Africa. You touched on a very, very important and critical aspect in terms of Africa driving and learning to starting to design our own AI infrastructure in terms of learning language models and machine learnings, and not just becoming users. And I've observed over the many years, looking at economies like the US and China, they've got huge budgets in R&D and science and innovation that encourages markets in order to be innovative. You even see the relationship between universities and private sector in the US, whereby they partner up in such a way that skills development is always up to date with the current demand of jobs. So my question to you, Professor, is, have you thought, or what are the strategies in which South Africa, or even the country, the region, nationally, continentally, how we can start putting investment towards science and innovation in a way that is so natural and so easy that we're not creating silos and pockets of looking for funding in order to encourage youth participation or SME participation in that regard? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Chargé d'Affaires in the Embassy of Lebanon, South Africa, and I'm thankful for the invitation. And I congratulate you, Dr. Mutambara, for the book. I have a simple question, because we stand on the edge of looking so old, of being accused of using AI like a new Google. So when China says that it's gonna start educating AI in kindergarten, and now President Trump of USA as well, I have a simple question, how to educate AI? Because I know how to use AI like another Google, but I don't know how to get sophisticated with it and building an AI agent and all that sort of end the sequence of things that look very technical to me. So how can you just explain this to me, please, in a simplistic way, like for every average guy on the street, to make it more understandable? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The academic officer, I'm sure the SRC, right? We want to make sure that you student leaders do not just make noise, but you're also academically successful. In other words, if you come to me and you are a short caller, a president of the SRC, and you are failing, you don't impress me. I want you to come to me as president of the SRC with a first class. President of the SRC, #1 in class. We want to see academic excellence and social responsibility. So that's my charge to the SRC. President, Secretary General, Treasurer General, you must be rock stars academically. Then you can say fees must fall. But first, let's get the first class, right? But you're very correct. If we're not careful, AI will reinforce the differences, the inequalities, and the biases. That's why I say, #1, let us use AI. I mean, even if it's biased, if it's useful, use it. But more importantly, let us also design and build AI systems. So we remove the biases, we'll put our values in there, we'll solve our problems. Silicon Valley cannot help you on load shedding. They don't even know what it means. I mean, you mean you switch off the electricity? Why do you do that? Because they've never had a shortage. So if you're going to use AI to solve load shedding, you have to solve it here in South Africa. So you are very correct. The African must be a creator of AI systems. The African must be a designer of AI systems, not just a consumer. Let's consume, but also build, so that we can decolonize AI, so that we can put what's called decoloniality in AI, so that we can democratize AI. Otherwise, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is going to expand. So we have a duty and obligation to take out colonialism from AI, to take out colonial views from AI. We need to democratize it so more people have access. So your question is very valid. You have a duty and obligation to do that by becoming creators of AI, as opposed to just consumers. The entrepreneur, very wonderful. We must worship entrepreneurs. You know, I'm sorry that the version that has gone, but I was going to say it in his presence. If the number one student in law, the number one student in engineering says, I want to drop out and form a company, please encourage them to leave UJ, even if they're number one. A degree must be a means to an end, not an end in itself. You know, once upon a time, I used to go to the World Economic Forum and I met Bill Gates. I said, Bill, how dare you drop out of Harvard? If I did that and drop out of Oxford, the entire village would stone me. Mutambara, how can you run out of Oxford? The entire village will stone me. They will never understand me dropping out of Oxford. He said, no, it wasn't that risky. He laughed. He said, no. When I had my idea, he was studying maths. He was very sharp, eh? You don't drop out when you are not very clever, eh? All these smart ones must drop out. He was doing what's called Maths 55. He was the top student at Harvard, but he had a good idea in the second year. He said, I went to my professors, I talked to them. They said, no, Bill, go and pursue your dream. Go and form your company. But if it doesn't work out, please come back. We'll work with you and give you a degree. Dean Marshall, you don't do that. If I leave, you don't want to see me again. In America, it's a flexible system. You can take your degree in 6 years, in 10 years. In the English system, our system is 3 years, or you are done. 4 years. We must be flexible about education. Education must be a means to an end, not an end in itself. Allow the smart kid to drop out and form a company. And if they run out of trouble, get them back and work with them and give them that degree. So I'm very happy that you're an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that you dropped out, but I'm saying we must worship and encourage entrepreneurs so that we can do this. You know, budgets. You know, let me make this very clear. You can't do AI without cash. In some of these companies doing LLMs, they are spending $100 million on one LLM, $100 million on ChatGPT, on Grok 4. In other words, it's very expensive to design and build AI systems. We must know that. Secondly, lots of energy is required. That's why people are now setting up nuclear power energy plants for private use. Number 3, we must also always remember that education, you know, to do an LLM, Comrade Kasuku, we need 100 PhDs in one company, 100 PhDs to do an LLM. Do we have them? China is producing 1.4 million engineers a year, 1.4 million engineers. America, 100,000 a year. So we can't do it in South Africa. We're too small for the energy, we're too small for the cash, we're too small for the talent. That's why we need to work together as 1.4 billion Africans with a collective GDP of $3.4 trillion. Can you imagine if I was to walk up and say, Mr. Trump, here I come, I'm the African. I speak on behalf of 1.4 billion people. I have a GDP behind me of $3.4 trillion, and I have all the minerals in Africa under me. Critical minerals in the DRC, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, are under one command. Mr. Trump will say, hey, let's make a deal. The Chinese will talk to us, not out of love, out of economics. We must understand that we can never survive in the AI revolution as countries. We survive as the African continent. South Africa is too small. Nigeria is too small. Minister, we must work as the African continent. All our minerals. I was very upset when I saw Rwanda and DRC going to Trump and being played out by Comrade Trump. We must go to America as Africa and say, hey, all these minerals, critical minerals, rare earth minerals, all this platinum and gold is under one command. Let's talk. You get a better deal from the Chinese. Now, if you go as little Zimbabwe, a mega deal with China. Botswana, a mega deal with China. It's not a mega. You are being shortchanged by our brothers. Yeah, they're not Father Christmas. They're business people. They're business people. They're not Father Christmas. Father Christmas doesn't come on a Sunday. Now, so my sister, we need numbers. The numbers we're talking about, the cash will come from regional integration. The energy will come from regional integration. The talent will come from regional integration. So that we have the critical cash, the critical talent, and the critical amount of energy we need to play in this AI revolution. How to build an AI system? It's very difficult, but we can do it. Our young people can do it. You know, young people, just give your smartphone to a kid who has never seen it before. They figure out how it works in 5 minutes. A 6-year-old will think. So in other words, our young people are our asset. Let's empower them with the skills of understanding coding, of understanding AI, of understanding how to build AI systems. And by the way, coding is important, but AI is doing coding as well. So you learn how to code, but beyond that, use AI to code. So learn how to do basic coding, learn how to understand, but also be able to use AI in the coding business. So what we need to do is to empower them with what we call compute resources, the GPUs, the NPUs, the CPUs, the data centers. We must provide the hardware that's required to build AI systems. Using AI does not require that much energy, but building AI systems, like LLMs, you need the energy, you need the knowledge, the PhDs, and you need the cash. So let's give them the skills. Let us look for the money. Let us look for the energy. Let us look for the talent that is required. So it can be done, but the starting point has to be our young people. I'll take a last set.
Thanks very much, Prof. So we have one gentleman over here already with the microphone, and then we have that gentleman over there, I promised, and then one more over there. Please, short and sweet, because we're running over time, and I take my job as program director very seriously. 3 short questions, please, then we can carry on the conversation in the refreshment lounge next door anyway. Any online questions we'll just have to hand over for the next... Sure. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Good evening. You sort of touched on my question, but I've tried to specify it a bit. As post-colonial subjects, we exist in a world where our present cultural orientation is rooted in the painful history of colonialism and imperialism. So the issue of digital colonialism and AI is what is interesting to me. If I may share, I'm a film and TV student at Wits University, and I'm in the process of writing my master's proposal. And I'm looking at where and how could we use AI in reclaiming and decolonizing the cinematic archive of Africa. So my question is, what specific roles could AI play in the decolonial project?
Greetings respectively. My name is Tato. Mine is very simple, Prof. Is to propose battle of ideologies with Prof. Dean Mashao there, since he is leading with the research output in engineering, and then to merge it with humanity, so that we have a multidisciplinary approach in computational thinking, engineering thinking, mathematical thinking, so that we drive the fourth industrial revolution in the art and science of decision making, so that when we proliferate these systems, we are able to have a multifaceted approach in thinking, so that we can able to battle them out to those who are aware of the knowledge and those who might equip themselves, so that we make education flexible. We must start the battle of ideologies end of this month. We must find a venue somewhere in the library center so that we start with the conversation. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. My question is on NLP in the African story. Like what Mr. Gomera was saying, is NLP advanced enough to capture the African perspective, considering the dialects that are there and the different, stories around? and create a solution or a subject matter that can be tackled or addressed? Thank you.
Okay, let's start with that. No, it's not. That's where the opportunity is. You come in there and make that difference. So it's not sufficiently expanded. And that's why we need, as Africans, to play a role by coming in there to fill that gap. That gap cannot be filled by Silicon Valley. It can be filled by you, it can be expanded by you. So no, it's not, and it has to be expanded by your involvement. The decolonial project, you see, again, very similar question to the one that has been given here. There's a lot we can do to empower ourselves using AI. In terms of our culture, our languages, our histories, we can use AI as a tool of empowerment to advance our liberation, to advance decolonization, to advance our cultural perspective. So it is important that we understand that. And also, as we look at AI, sometimes people feel that AI is so advanced. Why don't you leave it to Japan? AI is so advanced. Why don't you leave it to China and America? Guess what? Sometimes our lack of development, our lack of infrastructure is an opportunity to leapfrog. Remember mobile telephony. When mobile telephony came through, we didn't have enough of physical phones in Africa. We didn't have enough of brick and mortar banking. What did we do? We went from no communication using physical phones to mobile communication. We leapfrogged. We went from lack of physical banks to mobile banking. So right now when I say EcoCash, when I say Mupesa, that's global best practice. There's nothing in China, there's nothing in Japan, there's nothing in New York that is as good as Mupesa. There's nothing there. Not because they can't do it. Why would you bank on a phone when you have an ATM machine in your bedroom? So the lack of banking infrastructure in Africa was an opportunity for Africans to leapfrog from no banking to mobile banking, from no communication to mobile communication. In the same way, when you look at culture, when you look at history, we can say, why don't we use this technology to fast forward ourselves in terms of our liberation and use of AI in terms of our culture and our history? So don't lose heart by thinking that these technologies are so advanced, they're so... Sometimes our backwardness, sometimes our lack of infrastructure is an opportunity to leapfrog, because we have no what are called infrastructure sunk costs. In New York, when mobile telephone came through, they had to put mobile on top of wires. In London, mobile on top of wires. In Notito, there was nothing, so it went wireless. So always think about this and say, of these advanced AI innovations, which ones can we use in Africa because we're poor, because we're behind in terms of infrastructure? Where is our leapfrog opportunity? And you might find that actually some of the AI innovations are more useful, easier to apply in poor Africa than in London, precisely because of the lack of infrastructure. Your research question, it was kind of mumbling there, and I'll leave it to the Dean to address it. Is this my last question? Yes. Now, as I conclude, I want to conclude on my favorite subject. I know young people, you are very, say, oh, well, I'm doing well, I'm going to be a superstar lawyer. I'm doing well, I'm going to be a superstar engineer. I'm going to be a rock star surgeon. I've got good news for you, or bad news for you. Collective success is more important than individual success. Pursue individual success, be a rockstar engineer, but let's make sure we fix South Africa, our country. Let us make sure we fix Africa, our continent. You know, I used to be a young global leader, going to the World Economic Forum, and I used to talk sharp. As you can see, I love talking. And they'll say, hey, Mutambara, we love what you say. Where are you from? Then I refuse to answer. I say, I'm coming out of MIT, McKinsey, and Harvard. No. Those are schools. Which country? I refuse to answer. I say, I'm, then eventually I say, I'm from Zimbabwe. Come on. Professor Mutambara. If you are that smart, how come your country is messed up? If you are that smart, how come there's cholera in Harare? No. Mutambara, you're no rock star. So you see, my rockstar status, my superstardom is undermined by the bankrupts of my country. You'll never be respected as a Zimbabwean until Zimbabwe has done well as a country. Take it to another level. You'll never be respected as an African until Africa has done well as a continent. Please, let us fix Africa using AI.
Thank you so much, Prof. Prof, you're dangerously close to being a politician again. Is that the route you want to go? Because you can do both. Minister Zulu said you can do both, you should do both. I'm now going to call on our Executive Dean for Phoebe to close tonight's proceedings. The topic is extremely popular, Prof. Expect more questions when we go and eat next door. Yes. You will not be left alone. Okay, yeah. Prof?
No, thank you very much. Prof. Mutambara, you have done it. We could be here for the next 3 hours. I'm sure many people would enjoy it because they will have to have their questions answered. Mine is going to be very short. You know, I thought I was going to give a vote of thanks, but I didn't see a vote of thanks. I saw everybody else with brief remarks, and mine were closing remarks. And I thought, do I have to speak, or do I have to just say a few words? And I thought I'm going to say a few words and also a thank you, because you probably have to explain the books, and I already saw somebody picking up a book there. I think there's a price tag for those books that are there. But I want to say thank you very much for everyone attending this AI and SDG book launch. I was thinking about the book about 2015, when the SDG 2030 were discussed. And I was just trying to imagine what were the people thinking is going to happen in 2030 when they were setting up the targets. Because usually when we set up these targets and the goals, we really expect that they are really going to be achieved. Right now we are talking about 35%, and we are just 5 years away. But I also realized that when the people were setting the targets, you know, Trump had not come on the scene. COVID was not there. I mean, there was not COVID-19. I mean, it was something that really amazed all of us. We had already known about pandemics, but I was actually watching a movie that was talking about pandemic of flu in 2018. You know, nobody knows about it. Nobody thinks about it. But when they were making the movie, they were talking about this pandemic in 2018. This is what happened. But 2019 really beat us all. I mean, made the whole world to realize that a pandemic is real. Prof. Mutambara, I also noticed I have the privilege of being a dean, so he makes sure he gives me his books. And I've been reading a lot of books, and I realized that most of the books that I got from him, they had AGO as his name. This one is the first one where he has put all the names, Arthur, Husseini, Oliver. So I was just wondering what happened. I'm thinking, is that age, or is that the man is getting wiser, you know, he's wanting to leave a legacy? I also read your book. I made sure that I read because I was going to come here, and I really like what you said in your preface, that technology, not necessarily artificial intelligence, is pivotal in advancing the SDGs by providing innovative solutions to global challenges. I think we are all excited about AI, and we should be. It's really a great technology, but we should be aware that there are more technologies. There are more technologies. Yes, I agree with the impact and the power of AI. I looked at that picture you had there of a horse being told that you mustn't be afraid of a tractor, you must be afraid of a horse that can drive a tractor. But I want to say, to human beings, really you mustn't be afraid of AI, but be afraid of a human being who's able to use AI. Because the people who are going to use AI, they are going to take your jobs, they are really going to do a lot more. So this human 2.0 of augmentation is really a reality. And I like your question that, many of us now are using AI as Google. You know, we use it to search, but we are not really using the real power that it has And there are some who are scaring us. My SED is not here, who's also worried about critical thinking that is going to go away as we learn, as we use AI a lot. But yeah, there are issues there. I still remember I had those issues when I first learned to use a calculator, because I was really worried whether, am I going to turn stupid? Because now I'm using a calculator. But I learned that education was different. Education then was you reciting 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is, you used to recite that. And we used to think that is maths. And we really realized later that, no, that is not maths. You know, the calculator doesn't make you stupid. It makes you think about other concepts that you need to do better. And we learn all the time. My first test that I failed, I did my engineering, and I'm careful of time. I did my first degree of engineering at UCT. Now, the first test I failed was an open book test. And I was told that there's an open book exam. And I really, you bring your textbook and you come and write an exam. And I thought, nah, that must be the easiest exam I was going to do. So I realized when I was doing my exam, they didn't ask me the questions like, you know, those, when did Jan van Riebeeck come into South Africa? You know, the ones where you can copy. I mean, they asked you other questions that tested your thinking. Yeah, not just copying things. And I think that's what's going to happen with AI as well. We'll learn to ask the right questions. Because if you look at our degrees, if you look at the medical degree currently, a medical degree, they could do it, I think, 6, 7 years. But you realize about 3 years of that time, they are learning about names of things, names of body parts, and all of that. But do you really need to spend 3 years learning those? With AI now, with generative AI, realize maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe an engineering degree that is 4 years, maybe it could be 2 years, you know, where we'll teach you how to think. Well, Prof, I just wanted to mention that from your book, I mean, I read it a little bit. I'm not going to say that I read all of it, and I really enjoyed your interpretation of what technology is, because people must be aware. You know, there's, and this is my last point, there are people who are saying, when are we going to get the 5th industrial revolution? And I tell them that people who say that are people who don't understand the 4th industrial revolution, because we are really at the beginning. We have not really exhausted anything. If you look at technologies such as blockchain, blockchain gives you digital trust. We haven't really explored that. You know, we still have driver's licenses. We still have different copies. And using technologies such as blockchain, we could replace a lot of the things that we're doing. We could replace the technologies, because blockchain will give us digital trust. Well, I don't want to say too much more, but other than to say thank you very much. We are really challenged. I hope this is not just a book launch, but it's a launch of friendships, it's a launch of connections, it's a launch of us working together, because if we do not participate in this, we are going to be left behind. We are going to be left behind not because the people who decide to leave us behind know what they are doing. The people who are deciding to leave us behind, it's because we are not contributing anything. We are not saying anything, and I hope that you know, with this encouragement of a book, I'm going to read it. I'm going to go through all those SDGs, and I'm going to say thank you very much, Prof. Mutambara, for putting another African voice to the debate of the 4th Industrial Revolution and artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Mashao, for those very wise words to end off the evening. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and your participation. Please join us next door for refreshments after this event. I want to say a huge congratulations to Prof. Mutambara. A successful launch, a lot of interest. Please buy the book. You can buy the book just here before you go and eat food. It will enrich your life even though you spend some cash. So please do it. It is important. It is worthwhile. One more round of applause, please, to our guest of honor, Prof. Mutambara. Please, everybody, travel safely and join us next door for food. Thank you.